All right, class. So here we are with pre-algebra adding positive and negative numbers. And this is a real important concept, real important topic, because a lot of the problems the rest of your math career are going to involve adding positive and negative numbers. What are we talking about? Something like this. What if we had negative 3 plus 5? All right, so we have one negative number, one positive number. And really, textbooks used to teach it this way. They used to say this: take the absolute value of the one with the most, subtract from it the absolute value of the one with the least, and then give the sign of the one with the most. Now, a lot of students would say, Mr. Scarfy, you said subtraction. And honestly, they'd have to think about absolute value, and they really wouldn't know what's going on. Well, someone came up with the idea of using number lines. Great tool, great tool. So let's add negative 3 plus 5 on a number line. All right, so how do you do that? Well, if you remember, you start at 0 and negative is to the left, so I'm going to go 3 places to the left. And there I am right at negative 3. But then I have what? Positive 5. All right, well, let's start at negative 3. Positive is to the right. Let's move 5 places to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And where do I end up? At positive 2. What's the answer? Positive 2. And you know what? That's a great way of adding positive and negative numbers. It's only one problem. Try a problem like this. What if we had negative 37 plus 12? You're going to have a gigantic number line. And so it's not really practical in that respect. Well, we need to take the principles that we just looked at on the number line and learn to do them intuitively. First, though, we have to remember about opposite numbers. Do you remember what opposite numbers are? There are two numbers where their sum is 0. The sum is 0. And so opposite numbers, something like this. If we had a 5 and a negative 5, and if you want, you can put a little plus sign in between and make yourself feel a little happier there. But we have a positive 5 and a negative 5, and these are opposite numbers. And what is their sum? Their sum is 0. You know, again, you can look at something like negative 7. What's its opposite? Plus 7. And you know what? Their sum is 0. So opposite numbers, the sum is 0. All right, let's get to adding intuitively. A key to adding intuitively is thinking of the numbers as that amount of positives and negatives. So I'm going to go back to our problem, negative 3 plus 5. So what do I have? I have 3 negatives, and I'm going to draw 3 negatives. And what do I have? I have 5 positives, and I'm going to draw 5 positives. So I have 3 negatives and 5 positives. Well, what happens? These 3 negatives wipe out these 3 positives. They're gone. What are we left with? 2 positives. What's the answer? 2. Now look, that's exactly what happens when adding positive and negative numbers. And let's go back to the number line to look at it. Here we were at negative 3. And what did that negative 3 do? It wiped out the positive 3. They wiped each other out. And look what the answer was. The answer was how many positives were left, or what was left. That's exactly how you add intuitively. Now you might say, hey, Mr. Scarfy, you got the same problem as the number line had. Well, yeah, kind of. I do, but you know what? There's a way around it, and let me show you. So let's go ahead and do that same problem. Here we go again, negative 3 plus 5. Here's the methodology, and here's what my pre-algebra students do, and we usually do this for 2 or 3 days until we get the concept down. You take all of the amount with the least. 3 negatives and 5 positives. 3 is less than 5. Take all of my negatives. So there is 3 negatives. Take the same amount from the positives. All right, I got to take 3 of my positives. What are they? Opposite numbers. What do they equal? 0. What do I have left? 2 positives. What's the answer? Positive 2. Hey, that's the method. I can do it. You can do it. Let me show you another one here. Let's go up to the top right. Let's suppose we had negative 19 plus 14. All right, remember how you start. Always start and take all of the one with the least. I'm going to take all 14 positives. I'm going to take the same amount of the negatives. So I'm going to take 14 negatives. These always add up. They're opposite numbers. When you add them up, you get 0. Remember the number line? They're wiping each other out. What do I have left? I used 14 of my 19 negatives. I have 5 negatives left. What's the solution? -5. And again, I try to get my students to train their brain to think this way. We'll do it for a few days, and then after a few days, we'll move into how to do it with mental math. Well, let me show you one more. Let me show you one more. Let's suppose we had 11 minus 19. Now, a lot of students stumble with this type of a problem. And I start off by telling my students, hey, remember, students, this is no different than 11 plus a -19. And mathematicians always like to cut out extra keystrokes. And so, we just understand this is 11 positives and 19 negatives. Hey, this is what I tell my students. Just keep the sign with the number. That's 19 negatives. We got 11 positives. All right. Start with the one with the least and take them all. 11 positives. Take the same amount from the one with the most. Let's take 11 negatives. What are they? Opposite numbers. What do they equal? 0, right? They wipe each other out. What do I have left? I have left 8 negatives. Listen, this is exactly what's going on. This is exactly why the answer is -8. It's what I have left. And the answer, the solution, is -8. All right, let's talk about this with mental math. So mental math. All right, let me move this up a little bit here, and I don't know where this came from. I didn't even think that was going to be there. I'll get rid of it. All right, let's think about some mental math. All right, first off, this concept with mental math. I try to train my students to remember this, to remember that the sign of the sum will always be the sign of the one with the most. The sign of the one with the most. Don't forget that, because you don't want to miss signs. And I see students do that all the time. The answer should be positive, they make it negative. The answer should be negative, they make it positive. Hey, remember, the sign of the sum is always the sign of the one with the most. Well, let's do it in an intuitive way, because in reality, you don't want to be drawing those boxes and all that stuff. So watch how easy this is. Watch how this works. It's really a work of art. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to start with the one with the least and take them all 33. And all we have to do is go over to our positives and start counting from 33 and count how many positives are left. So if you start at 33, when you get to 48, you get 15 left. So you have 15 left, and what are the 15? Positive or negative? They're positive because you had more positives than negatives. Answer? 15. It's how it works. It's that easy. It's that simplistic. Let me show you with one more. Suppose we had this problem, 56 minus 97. So here's what the students come to understand. These 56 wipe out 56 of my negatives. So if I'll start counting from 56, I'll be able to count how many negatives are left. Okay, I'm going to use my fingers. 50, 66, 76, 86, 96. That's 41. And what were most? Negatives. Answer, -41. Hey class, you can do this. It's really simplistic. If you'll train your brain first to understand what's going on, the one with the least wipes out that amount of the one with the most, and the amount that's left is your solution. And if you'll do it, you'll never have problems with positive and negative numbers again. All right, that's it for today.